Oscar Benton never imagined that sharing his lunch would make him famous. One moment, he was a construction apprentice eating a homemade sandwich on a park bench. The next, his face was everywhere, trending across social media, discussed on morning shows, debated by millions of strangers. What happens when a simple act of kindness gets captured on camera and changes your life overnight? Oscar's story isn't about wealth or status. It's about something far more valuable. The moment when humanity cuts through the noise of a world obsessed with who's watching. Drop a comment below if you've ever done something kind without realizing someone was watching, because Oscar's ordinary Tuesday lunch was about to become extraordinary. Oscar Benton's life ran on a tight budget and a predictable rhythm. Wake at 5:30. Coffee. Bus to the construction site. 8 hours of physical labor that left his muscles aching and his hands calloused. Evening bus home. Cheap dinner. Sleep. Repeat. At 26, Oscar was building other people's dreams. Luxury condos, renovated lofts, office towers that scraped the sky. He hammered nails into framework for homes he'd never afford, installed fixtures in kitchens that cost more than his annual salary. But Oscar didn't resent it. He was learning a trade, earning honest money, and slowly saving for something better. Maybe his own small apartment someday. Maybe better tools. Maybe just the security of knowing he could handle an emergency without panic. The loneliness, though, that was harder to budget around. In a city of millions, Oscar had mastered the art of being invisible. Co-workers were friendly but temporary. Neighbors were strangers. His family lived 3 states away. Most days, the only real conversation he had was with the guy at the corner deli who made his morning coffee. Lunch was Oscar's sanctuary. 30 precious minutes in the city park near the construction site, sitting on the same bench under the same maple tree, watching the world move past him. Joggers, dog walkers, business people on phones, young mothers with strollers, everyone rushing somewhere important, while Oscar unwrapped a sandwich and pretended he wasn't lonely. Late summer heat shimmered off the pavement. Neon signs from nearby shops buzzed and flickered even in daylight. The city hummed with its usual chaos. Car horns, distant music, fragments of 100 conversations blending into white noise. In a city of millions, Oscar had mastered the art of being invisible, until the day he wasn't. That Tuesday started like any other. Oscar claimed his usual bench, grateful for the shade. He'd made turkey and cheese that morning, nothing fancy, but he'd been looking forward to it all through the morning shift. That's when he noticed her. A young woman sat on the adjacent bench, maybe 20 feet away. She wore clothes that didn't belong in this park. Designer everything. Even Oscar could tell that much. Her dress probably cost more than his rent, but her posture told a different story. Hunched shoulders, head down, face partially hidden behind sunglasses despite sitting in the shade. People walked past, some doing double takes. A few whispered to each other. Phones subtly angled in her direction, but no one approached. No one asked if she was okay. Oscar took a bite of his sandwich and tried not to stare. Not your business, he told himself. Everyone's got their own problems. But something about her posture, that particular kind of alone that he recognized too well, nagged at him. She looked up briefly, and even behind the sunglasses, Oscar could see she'd been crying. His mother's voice echoed in his head. If you see someone hurting and you do nothing, you're part of the problem. Oscar stood up, walked over, and before he could overthink it, said, "Would you like half?" He held out his sandwich, wrapped in its simple plastic bag, aware of how ridiculous this probably looked. His cheap homemade lunch, offered to someone wearing what was probably a $5,000 outfit. The woman stared at him, clearly surprised. "I what?" "Half my sandwich," Oscar said, suddenly feeling self-conscious. "You look like you could use some lunch. And honestly, I always pack too much." That was a lie. He was always hungry, but the lie felt worth it. She hesitated, studying him like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. When was the last time someone had offered her something with no agenda? No recognition behind their eyes. No calculation of what they might gain. "It's just turkey and cheese," Oscar added. "Nothing fancy, but it's good bread." A smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "Okay, thank you." Oscar sat down, maintaining respectful distance, and split the sandwich. They ate in comfortable silence for a moment before he asked, "Rough day?" "You could say that," she replied. Then, after a pause, "You?" "Same as always. Hitting things with hammers. Mostly." He grinned. "Living the dream." She laughed. A real laugh that seemed to surprise her. "What kind of work?" "Construction. Apprentice, technically. Still learning, but I'm getting there. Someday I'll run my own crew. That's the plan, anyway." Oscar talked easily, the way he always did when he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He told her about the job, about the apartment building they were working on, about his goal to save enough for trade school certification. He asked her questions, too. Nothing invasive, just a normal flow of conversation between two people sharing a meal. She listened intently, occasionally smiling at his stories. She talked about feeling trapped sometimes, about the pressure of expectations, about how exhausting it was to always be on. Oscar nodded, understanding more than she probably realized. Neither of them noticed a young man sitting on a distant bench, phone casually angled in their direction, recording. For 20 minutes, they weren't the construction worker and the heiress. They were just two hungry people sharing lunch. Eventually, she glanced at her phone and sighed. "I should go. Thank you for this, really. It was exactly what I needed." "Anytime," Oscar said, meaning it. "Hope your day gets better." She smiled, genuinely this time, and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Oscar returned to his construction site, already forgetting the encounter. Just another lunch. Just another kind gesture in a city that could use more of them. Have you ever connected with a stranger in an unexpected moment? Share your story in the comments. What Oscar didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that the woman he'd shared his sandwich with was Sienna Caldwell, the only daughter of Everett Caldwell, media mogul and billionaire. Her face was on magazine covers. Her family name was synonymous with wealth and power. Their company owned half the news outlets in the country. Sienna had grown up in penthouses and private jets. She'd attended the most exclusive schools, worn designer clothes since childhood, and had every material advantage imaginable. But privilege, she'd learned early, came with a price. Everyone wanted something. Every friendship felt transactional. Every conversation carried an agenda. People saw her last name before they saw her. So Sienna had developed a habit, a need, really, to escape. She'd slip away from her security detail, dress down, though her version of dressing down still cost thousands, and disappear into the city, not to slum it or feel superior, but to remember what it felt like when people didn't know who she was, when conversations could be real. That Tuesday, she'd fought with her father about the direction of the company, about ethics, about responsibility. She'd stormed out and ended up in that park, fighting back tears, wondering if she'd ever be more than her family's expectations. Then a construction worker offered her half his sandwich. The video surfaced 4 hours later. Someone had recognized Sienna after the fact, reviewed their phone footage, and posted with a caption, "Billionaire heiress Sienna Caldwell sharing lunch with construction worker in City Park. This is the sweetest thing I've ever seen." Within an hour, it had 100,000 views. By evening, 5 million. By midnight, the video was everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. News outlets picked it up. Commentary channels analyzed it. People who'd never heard of Sienna Caldwell suddenly had opinions about her character. Comments flooded in, "He had no idea who she was. This restored my faith in humanity. The way he just offered his lunch, no hesitation. She looked so genuinely happy. This is what kindness looks like." While Oscar was hammering nails into wooden frames, his face was hammering its way across millions of screens. Oscar didn't have social media, couldn't afford a data plan that made scrolling practical, and honestly, he'd never seen the appeal. So when his co-workers started acting weird at the end of the shift, nudging each other, glancing at him, whispering, he had no context. "Yo, Oscar," his friend Miguel finally said, barely containing laughter. "You're famous, man." "What?" Miguel held up his phone. Oscar saw himself on the screen, sitting on that park bench, handing half his sandwich to the woman from lunch. "That's from today," Oscar said slowly. Who filmed that? Dude, do you know who that is? Miguel zoomed in on the woman's face. That's Sienna Caldwell. Her dad owns like half the media in America. She's worth, I don't even know how much. Oscar stared at the screen, genuinely confused. Okay, she was hungry. I had food. Oscar, this video has like 10 million views. You're trending on Twitter. People are calling you Sandwich Guy. There are reporters trying to get comments from the site manager. Oscar blinked. 10 million people had watched him eat lunch? Over the next few days, Oscar's life became surreal. His phone, which normally only rang when his mother called, exploded with numbers he didn't recognize. News vans appeared near the construction site. A reporter actually tried to interview him while he was on a ladder. His boss, amused and slightly annoyed, asked what happened. Oscar explained. Shared lunch. Didn't know who she was. Went back to work. The end. A local news station finally cornered him after his shift. The reporter, perfectly clothed and deeply earnest, asked, Oscar, when you offered Sienna Caldwell your sandwich, did you know who she was? No, Oscar said honestly. And if you had known? Oscar shrugged, genuinely puzzled by the question. Would it have mattered? She looked upset. She looked hungry. I had food. That's it. The reporter pressed. You're not hoping to leverage this moment? No book deals, no interviews, no. No, Oscar interrupted, a little uncomfortable now. I just want to finish my shift and go home. That clip went viral too. People called him refreshingly real and the most wholesome human alive. Some cynics questioned his motives. Nobody was that humble without an angle. Oscar ignored them. He'd told the truth. He wasn't interested in fame. He just wanted his ordinary life back. If Oscar's humility inspires you, hit that like button, because this story gets even better. In an age where everyone wanted their 15 minutes of fame, Oscar just wanted to finish his sandwich in peace. But Sienna wasn't going to let his kindness go unacknowledged. 3 days after the video went viral, she posted a lengthy message on her verified social media accounts. It was personal, thoughtful, and utterly sincere. I want to talk about the park video. That day, I was having one of the hardest mornings of my life. I felt invisible despite being constantly watched. I felt alone despite being surrounded by people who knew my name. Then a stranger, Oscar Benton, offered me half his lunch. Not because he recognized me, not because he wanted something, but because he saw another person who needed kindness. Oscar didn't see my last name, my father's company, or my bank account. He saw someone who needed a moment of humanity. That's rarer than you'd think. That simple gesture reminded me that connection doesn't require credentials. Compassion doesn't check your status. And sometimes the most valuable thing you can give someone costs absolutely nothing. Thank you, Oscar. You have no idea what that sandwich meant. The post received 20 million impressions in 24 hours. Sienna reached out to Oscar privately, asking to meet for coffee. He agreed, slightly nervous, still processing the absurdity of his new reality. They met at a quiet cafe, her security detail maintaining discreet distance. The conversation was easy, familiar, like continuing a discussion they'd started on that park bench. I want to do something for you, Sienna said. A thank you. Oscar shifted uncomfortably. That's not necessary. I really just shared your lunch. I know. Sienna smiled. But you gave me something valuable, and I'd like to give something back. Not as payment, but as gratitude. They talked for 2 hours. Sienna offered money. Oscar refused. She offered connections, job opportunities, media appearances. Oscar politely declined everything. Finally, they found common ground, a scholarship fund for trade school students, established in Oscar's name, funded by Sienna's foundation. Students from low-income backgrounds could get the training Oscar was working so hard to afford. That, Oscar said quietly, would actually matter. The announcement of the scholarship fund sparked another wave of attention. But this time, the conversation shifted from the viral moment to something bigger. What did this story say about class divides? About authentic human connection? About the way wealth can isolate as much as poverty? People started sharing their own stories of unexpected kindness. The sandwich challenge emerged. People buying meals for strangers, sharing food, connecting across differences. Community groups organized lunch programs for the homeless. Schools started teaching lessons about compassion without recognition. One sandwich didn't change the world, but it reminded the world what it had forgotten. Acts of genuine kindness, untainted by performance or calculation, still existed, still mattered, still had the power to cut through cynicism and connect humans to humans. Know someone who needs to see this? Share this video. Kindness is contagious. 6 months later, their story had taken on a life of its own, but Oscar and Sienna remained grounded in the simplicity of where it started. They still meet for lunch occasionally, sometimes in parks, sometimes in quiet cafes, always as friends who understand what it means to be seen for who you actually are. Oscar still works construction, though opportunities have opened up thanks to scholarship funds' visibility and his own growing reputation as a skilled craftsman. He's on track to get his full certification next year. Sienna has become more engaged in genuine philanthropy, focusing less on galas and photo opportunities, more on direct impact and authentic connections. The park encounter changed her too, reminded her that privilege is responsibility, and that the best use of resources is lifting others up. Both were changed by 20 minutes on a park bench. Both learned that connection transcends every boundary we construct. So what can we learn from Oscar and Sienna's story? First, kindness costs nothing but means everything. Oscar didn't have much. A construction apprentice's salary doesn't leave room for extravagance. But he had a sandwich and the willingness to share it. That's all it took. Generosity isn't about the size of the gift. It's about the genuine intention behind it. We all have something we can offer. Second, treat everyone with dignity regardless of status. Oscar didn't know Sienna's name or net worth. It didn't matter. He saw another human being in distress and responded with basic decency. Imagine a world where that's a default, where we extend respect and compassion based on shared humanity, not social standing. That's the world we should be building. Third, authenticity stands out in a world performance. Oscar's response to fame revealed his character. No leverage attempts. No calculated moves. Just honest bewilderment at why people cared so much about a shared sandwich. In an age of carefully curated personas and strategic self-promotion, genuine humility cuts through the noise like a spotlight. Fourth, small gestures have disproportionate impact. Oscar wasn't trying to change anyone's life. He was just sharing lunch. But that moment rippled outward, affecting Sienna, inspiring millions, creating scholarship opportunities, sparking a movement of everyday kindness. We underestimate how much our smallest actions matter. Every interaction is a chance to leave someone better than we found them. Fifth, connection doesn't calculate worth. The best relationships, whether friendships or brief encounters, form when we stop measuring what someone can do for us. Oscar didn't see opportunity in Sienna. Sienna didn't see obligation in Oscar. They just saw each other. That's when real human connection happens. When was the last time you offered help without knowing who someone was or what they could give back? When did you last extend kindness with no audience, no recognition, no expectation of return? This story resonated with millions because we're starving for authenticity. We're exhausted by transactional relationships and performative compassion. Oscar and Sienna reminded us that genuine humanity still exists. It's just sometimes buried under layers of cynicism and calculation. In a recent interview, Oscar was asked what he learned from the experience. His answer was simple and profound. I didn't do anything special. I just did what anyone should do. Maybe that's a problem. We forgot that should is supposed to be normal. Somewhere along the way, basic kindness became exceptional. That's backwards. We should all be exceptional at being basically kind. Oscar Benton shared half a sandwich. Sienna Caldwell shared half her world, her platform, her resources, her genuine gratitude. And in that exchange, both found something priceless. Proof that kindness doesn't calculate. It just is. Their story isn't about a billionaire and a construction worker. It's about two people who chose to see each other's humanity when it would have been easier to look away. It's about the radical act of caring when no one's watching and the beautiful irony that sometimes someone is, and that moment of kindness becomes a gift to millions. If this story reminded you what matters, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment. What's one kind thing you'll do this week? Subscribe to Earthly Tales for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. And share this with someone who could use a reminder that kindness still exists, still matters, and still has the power to change everything. Oscar shared half a sandwich. Sienna shared half her world. And in that exchange, both found something priceless. Proof that kindness doesn't calculate, it just is.